Factoring with a leading coefficient. Okay, before we get into the steps, you need to know the vocabulary for this one. So the leading coefficient means it's the big number at the very beginning of your problem. So it's in front of the x squared. Our middle term in this case would be 14. Our constant is the number that doesn't have the letter attached to it, so that one is 3. Now, if you look at step 1, it says to multiply the leading coefficient and the constant. So I'm going to multiply those two numbers together, which gives me 24. So I need to find the factors of 24. Now, if you want to use the calculator method, I'm just going to show that to you again. You would type in 24 divided by x and press second graph. So that means I've got 1 times 24. I have 2 times 12, 3 times 8, and 4 times 6. So I'm going to keep going just to see if there's any more factors. The next time I don't have decimals, it's 4 and 6 again, so I have everything I need. Now, after you find the factors, now we're on step 2. You are still choosing the pair of factors that adds to give you the middle term. So that means I'm looking at this pair right here, because 2 plus 12 is equal to 14, that middle number right there. So now I'm going to come over and put my parentheses. I have x plus 2 and x plus 12. Okay, so I know x times x is x squared, not 8x squared, so we've got some more steps in here. What you're supposed to do now that you found your factors, take that leading coefficient and divide each one of your factors by this. And do not skip this step. You do need to reduce those fractions. So 2 divided by 8, if I turn that back to a fraction, it's 1/4. So this is x plus 1 over 4. On the next one, I've got 12 over 8. So 12 divided by 8, math enter, that is positive 3 over 2. So this one becomes x plus 3 over 2. Now, we do not want to leave any fractions in our answers, so we do have one more step where you are supposed to take the number that's on the bottom of your fraction, so in other words, the denominator, take the denominator, move it in front of the x. So this ends up giving me 4x plus 1. And on the other one, the 2's on the bottom, so I take that guy and move it in front of the x. That one is 2x plus 3. And I can just do a very quick check to make sure that I at least did all my steps. If I multiplied 4x times 2x, that's 8x squared. If I multiply 1 times 3, that's 3. Okay, so I'm going to show you one more example just to make sure you've got it. Okay. Same idea on this problem. We've got our leading coefficient, our middle term, and our constant. So step number 1 tells you that you are supposed to multiply the first and the last numbers together. So leading coefficient times constant. That gives us negative 10. Well, when you have a negative number, that means your factors, you must have one negative number and one positive number. So it could be negative 2 times 5. It could be the other way around, 1 and negative 10, 2 and negative 5. But I am still going to look for the pair that adds to equal that middle number. So that means that I am choosing 2 and negative 5 because 2 plus negative 5 equals negative 3, just like that middle term. So in my parentheses, I've got x plus 2 and x minus 5. So because we have that leading coefficient, that does add in an extra step right here. Now I've got to take that leading coefficient and divide by it. Positive 1, so you're not always going to have a fraction. And if I do negative 5 divided by 2, math enter, it's going to stay negative 5 over 2. So that gives me x minus 5 over 2. Okay, so we've got one more step because we do not want to leave any fractions in here. The x plus 1 moves down just like it would. And on the next one, I take the denominator, move it in front of the x. Leave the negative sign where it is. So 2x minus 5. And if I just very quickly check first and last, well, 1x times 2x is 2x squared, right up here, that one. And 1 times negative 5 is negative 5.